So when a girl posts a photo of a booty pic after the gym, what are they? They're fishing for compliments.
Yeah, it's like what you did, like flexing. You know, that's what you did.
True.
I think that people have to be more careful with the things that they post, for sure. There's a certain level of, I don't know, you've seen those TikTok videos where it's like, oh my gosh, TMI, you're sharing too much. Like, just keep that to yourself. Yeah, it gets to an extent where it's that, and you just know.
It's just a lot in the gym industry now with females working out and really like making an emphasis on their ass. Right, they post photos, you know, they post videos of them, you know, showing it off, and rightfully, I mean, I guess
you're like rightfully
so. I mean, show it off. I mean, I'm not complaining, but it just doesn't make sense to me when a guy does look at the gym, they get all upset about it. It's like, okay, you were posting it all on social media for millions of people to see, and you know millions of people are going to see, and know that all these guys are going to look at it, and then when a guy looks at you in the gym, it's like a bigger deal.
Oh my gosh, have you seen that video of that girl where she was posting a video and she said that this guy was looking at me, the gym coach or whatever was looking at her?
So many,
like, what are you doing? Who are you looking at? Oh, I thought so, sort of thing. I've seen so many videos like that too. Okay, so I think it all comes back to intention. It's all about intention. What was this girl trying to do with that? Okay, so women and men are inherently very insecure creatures. We're all insecure, right? And in this new age of the modern woman and modern society where, you know, hookup culture is, hey, you go and mess around with whoever you want. You're free to do that. Girls, you do that more than anybody. It's really insane the amount of ass that guys get to see. Imagine 20 years ago, men couldn't see that much ass that you guys are getting complete access to on Instagram, on Facebook, pretty much anywhere. It's just free. You know, you just go watch anything. And I think Instagram can be a really awful place to be at as a young man, especially because you're getting all of this. It's like porn. I think it really is like porn because men are very visual. Women are more mental. Women like the story of stuff. Actually, I think that's why 50 Shades of Grey did so well, even in the box office, is because women like the story. They like the storyline. They like all this mystery. But it's something really insidious. And I think it's really messed up that girls go around trying to show off stuff, just like guys go off showing their biceps. I think we're narcissistic beings. I understand it. I understand the need of validation because, again, we're insecure creatures. And this is where I was coming from when I said we're all insecure. I think women realize in the modern day in society that men like ass. So, oh my gosh, men will validate me and will value me more because I'm showing my ass. And that doesn't validate you as a person. Your body doesn't validate you as a person. Yeah, you might have nice biceps, Mo, and she might have a nice ass, but that doesn't make her a good person or you a good person. Your actions, your values, your morals are the things that will, in the long run, show you as a good human being. And I think that's where the insecurities come from. They're stemming from all the superficialities of life, because not only men but women are also very materialistic, right? So it's, before, like traditional women were instilled that you were who you were because of your values, your morals, and your family. And now it's women are what they work for. It's based off of their job. It's instilled in everybody to go and find a good job and just work for yourself and be that boss woman who, especially in women nowadays, be that boss woman that won't need no man, because you don't need no man. You don't need no family. You don't need no nothing. You are this independent, beautiful queen. And some guys think like that too. And I think that's where the problems stem from, because it's such a materialistic mentality. The world didn't evolve to the way that it's at right now because people were materialistic. It evolved because people were directed in family-oriented values, and that's where
being like traditional, like women being traditional, like, just finding a partner, starting a family.
Yeah, and you can attribute it to just habits, like plain habits. Let's take it away from women or men. Let's just say plain habits. I'm guessing you go to the gym every day, right? You just hit the gym. You're always at the gym. You're creating that habit.
Can you tell?
He's flexing.
Sorry.
You're hitting the gym every day, but you're creating a habit out of it, right? Which is a good thing. For women and for men who are going around hoeing around, if you want to call it that, they're creating a habit of that. And you can't really wife somebody up if they're not wifey, and you really can't husband a guy up if he's not husband material. And you don't just achieve that after getting married, you achieve that before. In the Bible, it says, he who finds a wife finds a good thing. And it's because this woman was already wife. She wasn't being, girlfriend. She was being wife. And for men, it's the same thing. It's not just, hey, it's a one-way road for women to have to be wives and submit to men. No, men also have to be husbands before they can have a wife. You can't be looking for a traditional woman if you're not a traditional man, if you're not giving yourself the standard of being that high value man. We talked about this on the previous episode.
Yeah. So do you think modern women right now are more just a little bit more overpowering and less submissive because of this whole empowerment movement and being independent, where they're not even there's no chance of being submissive anymore, and that's wrong?
I think it comes down to both men and women not wanting to let go of their egos. Yes, there are a lot of women nowadays, and of course we're generalizing, right? It's a generalization because there are women who are more traditional and there are men who are more traditional and there are women who are going around doing things that they shouldn't do. But I think it's mostly because of ego. Funny enough. Nobody wants to let go of their ego. Nobody wants to okay.
Also, I just feel like a lot of the things that people preach now, even for women, like most women don't really believe in what they're preaching. They're just saying it because it's what's cool. It's what's mainstream. It's what's, it might make them feel better in the moment. It's sort of a Band-Aid, but deep down, that's not really what they want. They want to settle down. They want a man to take care of them. They want a man to provide and be that provider. But they're lying to them. Do you think they're almost lying to themselves that they don't need that?
Lying to themselves. So many women operate under the false assumption that there's only one thing that men want. And so then they give them that only thing to find out that that's not the only thing that men want. They want somebody who will respect them.
Do you mean sex?
Yeah, sure. Sex, or for example, the girl who's going off showing her ass, thinking that's what a guy wants. That's who's going to give her value because of her ass, So it's that type of woman who's operating under this false assumption that there's only one thing that a man wants. And it's the same thing for guys. Some guys will think, oh, there's only one thing that a woman wants, or these bitches ain't crap, or whatever. I don't know what the whole movement is, but at any given time, let's say we can ask a man if he wants chicken nuggets, okay? And he'll be like, yeah, sure. Or he'll be like, no, because every guy has a different answer depending on what it's being offered. So if, let's say you ask, you've seen those videos of girls going around asking guys if they'll sleep with them, or guys going around asking girls if they'll sleep with men. You know what I'm talking about? And 7 out of 10 men will be like, yes, I'll sleep with you. And 9 out of 10 women will be like, no, what's wrong with you? Because there's differences in men between women. Most men and most women are completely different. In fact, all men and all women are different. But men will almost always take what is offered to them. So what are women offering to them?
Giulianna, there's one thing I wanted to ask you about this on the thing of, because I think both men and women are guilty of this now on social media. And, you just need to look at Instagram or TikTok and look at what kind of videos and content people are creating. And I see a lot of the same thing, both men and women usually either working out at the gym in very little clothing, or they're just, and this is more of a thing on TikTok, but just people dancing. I don't understand why is this interesting? I don't understand. I don't see a lot of people creating content that's of value. And I see more of the value in other platforms. For some reason, YouTube seems to work really well for this. But this short snackable content, 60 seconds, 2-minute videos that people are watching, it's all people doing just nothing. And they think that makes them great, and then they just feed off of the comments that people are saying to them. And some people build brands off of the content. You know, there's lots of people in the fitness industry that, you know, get sponsorships. They sell merchandise, they have clothing lines, and that's fine, you know, if you build a business around that. But there's so much of this now, and it's all the same kind of thing. And I'm not sure where this is really coming from.
Well, I think it might sound very controversial to even contemplate, but I think that it's the people in power right now who created TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese company that created TikTok, and so I think that in China, in fact, it's proven that a lot of the content that the Chinese people are consuming is not dances. It's very educational content. It's content that adds value to the children who are on TikTok. Whereas here in the United States and even in Canada, you see a lot of the ASMR dance stuff that really does nothing. It adds no value to your mind. It just entertains you. And I think what it's doing is completely distracting you. It's kind of like, hey, look at what I'm showing you over here, while the other hand is doing something else. And I'm not exactly sure what that is, but I'm pretty sure it has to do with the separation of segregation of men and women, men being completely hateful towards women, and women being completely hateful towards men. It's the segregation of races again. You see that all the time in movies, and you see it all the time in TV shows. It's this whole craze with I don't know, transgenderism. It's this whole craze. It's showing something pretty on one side, and then it's going ahead and doing something more insidious on the other side, where people are not noticing it because their attention is drawn to all the stupid little dances that people are doing on TikTok, and all the ASMR things that are just tickling your brain. You know, it's that kind of stuff. I think that's what it is. At least that's what I've noticed from it. It's more insidious.
What do you mean by insidious, though?
Because bad things are happening on the other side where we're not seeing it, because our attention is detracted and is focused on all the dances and all the things that don't add value to our lives. We're so focused on that we're not trying to become closer with our friends or our family. In fact,
got it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I think
that's. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think we spend way too much time. I mean, we just talked about this in the last couple of episodes, as we've had some clinical counselors that I thought have added really good value to our show. We had a really great conversation with Ali Gould last week about how social media is constantly, like, the social engineering behind all these apps. You know, people, their jobs are to create something that will bring us back into the application to spend more time into it, right? And what is the end goal? A lot of these services are free, right? You know, I always go back to that it's a tired expression now, but it still rings true today, that, you know, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, right? So our data, all these apps, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, actually Instagram's owned by Facebook now. They're all harvesting all this data. You just got to follow the money. And the money is the advertising. So they're taking all of our data and they're advertising against it. And I don't necessarily have a problem per se about that. Obviously, I have a choice. I could choose not to use these apps. But the reality is, I don't think a lot of people are actively thinking about on a day-to-day basis, what is my data being used for? What are they using this for? Is it to gain influence? Is it to, like, are these ads actually influencing my purchasing behavior? Are they, some platforms like Twitter have decided, or is it Twitter, or either Facebook or Twitter, one of those platforms have decided to not run political ads. So platforms that are running political ads, like, is that actually affecting, is that somehow affecting my thinking patterns, like, who am I going to vote for, all this kind of stuff, when I'm constantly seeing these ads?
Brainwashing, that's kind of like what's insidious about it.
I don't know, brainwashing isn't the right term, but it's influencing.
I think there is a certain level of brainwashing, because there are certain messages that just go by that we don't notice in our day-to-day lives. And it might be on an ad, it might be on a commercial, it might be on a TV show that we like. And they're just these little things that aren't right, that aren't completely true, that aren't truthful, that have a different agenda and that are trying to dictate a different agenda. And I think that's the insidious part about it. It's little gentle nudges of brainwashing. And you might might not like to call it brainwashing, but I think that's what it is. It's just preying on somebody's mind when they're unaware. It's like what you said, that people aren't really focused on what their data is being used for, or what they're being fed. And that's why you have to be very careful with the things that you consume, the things that you watch. And in the dating world, it comes down to, for example, porn. Why are you watching that stuff? And like I said at the beginning, Instagram is kind of like porn. Any of these social media applications where you see a lot of women or even men showing themselves off, I think it has a lot to do with how your brain changes while you're watching these things, while you're consuming that. I definitely agree with that. I think that's a really good point.
These things are being encouraged now, though. Being yourself, putting yourself out there, showing off your body parts, your ass, your breasts, all these things are being encouraged, especially for women. I feel like it's like part of a, it's encouraged because it's sort of a empowering thing. Oh, if you want to do it, really put yourself out there. Even women that do OnlyFans now, it's like, it's
why do you think that is though, Mo?
I would be very hesitant to date or marry someone that has an OnlyFans. Very hesitant. OnlyFans. Yeah, or does some sort of sex,
like sexual, commerce.
I want to dig into that. I find that fascinating too, because the reality is like
one thing can I say?
Go ahead.
Respectable man for themselves, any man that has respect for themselves would have something against it.
So there's a certain beauty to a man who has self-restraint. This is what we talked about in High Value Men, and we brought up the whole Andrew Tate situation and the red pill movement, where men say that cheating on a woman isn't the same as a woman cheating on a man. I think a high value man has to be a man who has the self-restraint, the discipline to not just give in to any woman. It just shows that you're not a really good man. You're not a high value man. It talks more about you than it does about all these women that you're messing around with. I think it's funny that you mentioned that. It reminds me of the whole Will Smith situation, right? That was, you see a lot of women doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing, like, I'm playing into it now, and I hate the fact that I just did that, is we talked about this with Alex Karanovich, the guy that came in. So he's a bodybuilder, he gyms a lot, and in his field, in his industry, and with that TikTok space of gym influencers and guys gymming, there's a like a big theme where it's like these young dudes, 20, 21-year-olds in their hoodies late at night posting things like, oh, she's not worried about you, bro. Like, get your shit done. Do your own thing. Work on yourself, king. All these things. So there's like this like incel vibe with guys right now. So this is the timeline of like how it's worked out. 10 years ago, men were like sort of this, like, I wouldn't say empowering figure over women. Not empowering, but kind of just...
like admirable, that women used to admire them,
right? Like, respect them. And as time has gone by, it's become this like fighting back by women, where it's like, fuck women. And by all means, women should be empowered. Women should work on themselves and work to achieve both great things. Both men and women. But there's a side of it where it's like, fuck men. They ain't shit. They gotta be making $250K a year, have this certain body,
or the reverse,
and then has to be charming, nice car, nice house, and then men see this, they're getting pissed off. They're like, "Oh, fuck you, bitch! Like, why you can't?"
Who's saying this?
It's the majority.
I don't hear this.
I'm not. It's not one specific person saying it, but and it's a perpetual back and forth.
The thing is, you won't hear people in real life refer to situations like that. Like Alex, I've rarely heard anybody say that to my face. Nobody's ever come to my face and said that. I think it's mostly on social media. You see a lot of people commenting these inward thought process that they have, and I think it's really interesting because, again, it just comes to show how much of a separation this this insidious movement of separating women and men. It's just making women hate men and men hate women, and then neither of them want to be together, and that means there's no more families, there's no more values, there's no sturdy foundation to build a family on, because you've got broken men and you've got broken women, and nobody wants to give up their egos or their high standards. They're not even high standard. What is it called? It's the,
I guess, a high value list of criteria they have for each other.
I'm looking for a word. It's when it's unreachable.
I think anybody who is looking for a partner is looking for, maybe this is too idyllic, but I really feel like anybody's looking for a partner wants somebody who is going to be emotionally and I guess financially stable too, right? You know, somebody who is going to be able to not only take care of themselves, but, you know, be able to contribute. Because I don't really feel, I don't subscribe to old world values where the male has to.
No, I agree with
I'm
that.
assuming. Let me just say, in a heterosexual relationship, I don't feel that it's the guys. It all falls on the man to. Because I feel like in the kind of relationships that I've been, it's like, and actually the last relationship that I had, which was very, very healthy. You know, I was dating someone who had their own business. She was very, you know, she's successful. She's very. She's not clingy. She's very self-sustainable. And, you know, and that's something that we both appreciated about each other. We were fine in that way. And that's something that I look for in other people too. But I feel like that's definitely something that people think of. You know, obviously if somebody's in a bad,
remember, we're no longer in the 50s, right? We're no longer in the 50s where women can't work. Women can work and they want to work. It's just that most women, and I'm saying this as a generalization again, most women want to bring up a family. Women hit their 30s and they're in this job that they've been spending most of their life at, and they think, well, what am I doing with my life? I want a family. And it's late notice, but hey, that's what ends up happening. I think women want, and both men and women want, strong, confident people to spend their lives with, that they can trust, someone that they can lean on for support, you know, and women want a leader. I think oftentimes women will go for the bad boys because these bad boys feign being strong men, and really, when in most cases, it's just them overcompensating for their insecurities. And same can be said for women who are doing that. It's just overcompensating for their insecurities. It's naive, really. And I think this modern woman is naive. Bad boys have the confidence that women love, and their selfishness is toxic. And the confidence might just be a lack of the mental capacity to calculate, you know, the consequences of their actions for both men and women. So it just might be dumb luck that all these women are just throwing themselves at these bad boys. It's kind of weird. I think a lot of people are giving into the plain hedonism of doing what you want when you want to do it, you know?
Yeah.
But the whole concept of bad boy is being washed down, because being a bad boy means being an asshole, being an alpha, being empowering. And with all this happening, there's a fear for guys to do that, because then they'll get Me Too'd or called out or something like that. So then what happens to men is they become resentful and they internalize it, and they become incels. We're like, oh, fuck women, fuck this shit, fuck that. And then women on the other side are feeding into it like it's, my thing is...
And
like,
we've talked about this before too, where like, who's going to the bars to look for women? It's men going to bars looking for women. So a lot of what women do really, it changes the behavior of men, right? Inherently, it does. It changes how a woman acts with a man will change his behavior toward her. So if, let's say, women stopped, you know, twerking or like going through their hoe phase, and men wouldn't have easy access to it, and then they wouldn't be able to go around hoeing with other girls. It comes down to women acting differently and having men treat them differently, because the one that sets the standard for things are women, you know. And back in Bolivia, there's a saying in Spanish, it's El hombre propone y la mujer dispone. So the man proposes and the woman disposes. She has the ability to say yes or no. So a lot of women are just making these bad decisions because I think there's a lack of father figures, again, from the family breaking down. There's a lack of father figures. You see a lot of young men not being able to really emulate what a strong man is supposed to look like because they didn't have fathers. And it's funny, they did a study about how fathers bringing up children, single dads bringing up children, can emulate the spot of a mother better than a mother can try to take the spot of a father for the child. And that children with single mothers have more, I guess not, I don't want to say trauma, but sure, let's say baggage that they have to carry into their relationships with anything romantic, any type of romantic relationships, whereas single fathers who brought up children, they fill in the spot of mothers much better than mothers can of fathers.
I don't know. It's
something to think about, you know? I think it really does all boil down to the superficial materialistic mentality of people lately, though.
Material as in like, women saying they want a guy to make $500K a year.
That too. I think that's unrealistic. That's an unrealistic standard, and there are certain standards that women should have, but somebody can live just as happily, especially if the woman is working. Like Alex was saying, this ex-girlfriend that he had was working. She had her own business. She was providing for herself. That's eventually cool. If she was working with him and they got married, they'd be working together, building something together. And that's what God made us to be. He made us to be two halves of a whole, and each of us are unique with unique attributes that are ideal for building a life together and then rearing and nurturing our children. That's what it's meant to be. Women bring a certain set of attributes and men bring other qualities to it, and then you work like a little machine. You work together to build something for the better, especially in today's day and age where women can work. Let's say you make $50K and she makes $50K. That's $100K in 1 year. Let's say you make $75K and she makes $50K. There's more money for the house to come in and you can have more children. You know, that's just how it works. And a lot of women are being unrealistic, setting that standard of $500K. It's just, would it
bother you, Giulianna, if your partner was making more than you, or you were making more than your partner?
I don't know. No, of course not. That would not make me angry or uncomfortable.
Not even that. It just kind of turn you off, I guess.
No, I think
that's actually more lifestyle, that's more common than you think.
I never really had to think about if somebody was making more money or less money than I was. It really didn't come into perspective. I think the way that I was brought up is that when you get married, you build something with your husband. You build a life together. What's mine becomes his and what's his becomes mine, and we build something together. It's not just, hey, this is mine and that's yours, you know, or you bring this much and I bring this much. I never really thought about that. It was always about building something together, about making something together, growing together.
Yeah, and I think it's probably more common that I have no data to, this is totally anecdotal, but it's more common nowadays that that women actually in you know, people that are married, like for a woman to actually make more money than a guy. And in fact, actually, my parents are a perfect example of this. My mom makes way more money, way more money, and my dad has no complaints. My mom made
more money than my dad at the beginning of their relationship. She was a physical therapist, and she was making more money than him. And I don't think that made him think it was less. In fact, I think a confident man can be confident in that his wife is making enough money and he's making enough money, and they can bring money back home to take care of their children. You know, I think that shows the character of a guy if he can really accept that.
Absolutely, and especially to be supportive too. Right?
Yeah,
like, look at what you have achieved.
Yeah, and bring her back up. Say, hey, you've done this, and that's amazing. And I want you to keep doing that, keep growing. Because I think there's a lot of competitiveness in relationships that's unhealthy. In fact, there was this study done where more competitive relationships end in nothing, because competitiveness in relationships is not good. It doesn't add to the relationship. I guess the only part in a relationship that you could be competitive in is in board games. Go ahead and be competitive in board games. Put all of that energy in that.
So for women that say these kind of things on, for example, the Fresh and Fit podcast, as one woman said, Myron, the host, asked, what do you see? What do you want in a guy? And she said, I want him to at least make 150K a year or 250K, something like that a year. What is the end?
I think that's unreasonable.
Oh, so it's unreasonable. I agree with you. What's the end destination for this individual? Like, what would you say in the next 10 years when she becomes, I don't know how old she was, let's say 28 or 27.
Okay.
In the next 10 years, where is this person going to be? Is she going to be all alone by herself? Like, holy fuck, I completely looked at this the wrong way. Like, what happens?
I think most of the guys that dated her seriously will be laughing at her later, guys that have proposed to her and asked her to marry them. And she said no because you don't make more than 150K. They'll be laughing in a couple of years because she won't have anybody. If she continues with that absurd mentality, that absurd kind of gold digger mentality, money comes in and out. You know, you're always going to make money. You're always going to lose money. It doesn't really matter. Money is not the foundation of what you should be building your relationship on. If you're thinking about money, you are in a serious bad position right there, because especially if you're a girl and you're living in the 21st century where you can make your own money, I think that's laughable. I really do think that's laughable. It's seriously sad. I think, like I said, modern women are naive. I don't consider modern women to be modern anymore. I just call them naive women. It's just naive to think that your husband should be making 150K in a society that has been broken down to add you into that space where you have to pay for your house as well. And it's not like it was before in the 50s where men could make that amount of money without women in the workforce. Now it's different. So what did you expect? I mean, what did you expect?
Can I say something real quick? As a man, I feel a little bit, it hasn't happened to me, but I want to be a leader. I want to be the provider. Like, I want to protect. I have that, that inherent energy about nature about me. And that's how I was raised. You know, I was raised like in a little bit older time when this whole movement started catching steam and everything. For me to be almost suppressed in the sense that I can't do all these things, I don't feel like a man anymore. Like, inherently, men are supposed to quote unquote dominate and be powerful, be protectors, be providers, love. But women are like, generalizing again, like you said, a lot of women right now are saying, no, fuck that. We can be our own leaders. We can provide for ourselves. We can protect ourselves, which is great. I get it. But you got to understand. But it's not
true. It's not true. It's not true, and it's not logical. And thing is, most men, any man, every man has that inherent nature to want to provide, because that's how men show their love, is that they provide for the people they love. And so I think it's mostly in Western society, Western countries, where you see women taking that, oh, I don't need a man, or that whole saying where I need a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That's a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. That is plain BS. That is you being entirely narcissistic and naive about life. Women need men need women. We wouldn't be here talking. We wouldn't be here on a meeting talking about this at all if men didn't need women and women didn't need men. It's absurd. It's an absurd ideology, and I think it is completely degrading for people to say, you know what, I don't need no man, or for men to say, I don't need no woman. That's BS. I think that's dumb. And I think it's degrading for women to go around saying that. I think it's sad because they go around slapping guys' hands. They say, oh, no, don't open the door for me. Don't be chivalrous. Don't be gentlemanly with me. And they're setting the standard of how they're going to be treated. Thing is, women want that fairy tale marriage, right? They want to be treated like a queen, like a princess, whatever. But they don't let the guys act like Prince Charming. Act in a way where they will feel happy with how they're being treated.
Right. Yeah. It's so.
It's backwards thinking.
Yeah, it's backwards thinking. They want to be treated as the queen and the princess, Prince Charming, and the castle saved from the dragon, but they don't actually want the fucking prince to come save them. Like, let us do our thing, man. Like, let us be men. Let us be men, and you can be independent. You can be powerful. You can be all that, but don't. I don't know. It's just why.
No, and you know what? It's really biblical too, because in the Bible, it talks about how a woman is supposed to know how to pay for the fields, and she's supposed to go out and do these things. It's not that when you get married or when you're in a relationship with a man, or if you're a girl and you're in a heterosexual relationship, right? That this man is going to make you submit, that you will be serving him. No, it's like for men. Their love language is to provide. For women, their love language is to care about if you're okay. Hey, honey, do you need me to make you a sandwich for work? Are you going to be out late today? That just comes naturally, just like it comes naturally for men to want to provide, to want to do these things, to want to take care of their women. So I think it's just backwards
thinking. Sorry to interject. So
no, go for it.
When you say that, the women that would disagree with you and say, "Oh, I don't want a man to. I would never tell a man, oh, sweetheart, are you hungry? Should I make you a sandwich?" Or, be a little bit submissive to the man. They're lying to themselves.
They're lying to them. Yeah, it's sad. You are lying to yourself, because what woman, you can't tell me to my face. No woman can tell me to my face, look at me in the eyes and say that if her husband is going off to work early in the morning, let's say 5 a.m, going off to work, she won't wake up earlier to help him get ready or to help him to see him off at least. There's this caring sense. I see it in my mother every day. And yeah, she's from a different generation, but I see it in my mother. When my dad has to go and work, if he wants to go and work because they're retired, but if he wants to go and like take up an acting job, that he's been doing acting a lot, my mom will wake up at 4 a.m. and see him off, make sure that he leaves all right. And that's just that caring nature. You see it in every woman. If you look to any wife, anybody, they will take care of their husbands, just like their husbands will take care of them. It's a two-way street. It's a two-way road. It's not like he's just giving me all this money and I'm just sitting here not doing anything. When you love somebody, there are certain things that you will want to do for them. You will just want to take care of them. Men want to take care of their wives. Wives want to take care of their husbands. That's what a relationship's about. It's all about love. It's not 50-50. It's 100-100. It's 100% you. It's 100% them. And if you're not putting in 100% of your work and your love and everything, that marriage will crumble. It will crumble. And it's funny because I remember this study my dad told me when I was very, very young. And he told me about this study and I looked it up just recently. It was a study about how there were 2 marriages that were crumbling. And they went to the same therapist, and the therapist spoke to them individually and said, okay, to the husband, do everything your wife likes. Do everything that you know she likes in the way that she likes to do it. And then she spoke to the wife and she said the same thing. Do everything that you know that your husband will like in the way that he likes to do it. And they did that for a week and they didn't want to get divorced anymore. Both marriages didn't want to get divorced anymore because they did what they knew that their spouse wanted them to do. It's the same thing for people in relationships. You meet somebody and you know the things that they'll like. You'll get to know them and you'll start realizing, oh, they like when I hug them like this, or when I tell them this, or they like this, and this is their love language. And you'll start doing those things naturally, that nobody will have to tell you to do that. That's what love is.
What are some other issues with modern women? A lot of women. What's the idea of a modern woman? Like, what are some other things that are kind of skewed and looked at the wrong way? And I guess internally, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I just kind of want to unpack that. And we can do men as well. I'm not, because I don't want to be one-sided with this thing, but
like I said, I think it really does boil down to the superficial materialistic mentality. Women think that they can do whatever they want because they hold the power over sex, and they think that they can do that. But when you're married, you can't do that. That's not logical. It's not sensible. But the same thing for men. It's all superficial, materialistic. It's all ego. It's all money driven. I think relationships would be far, far better if people started thinking about less money and more, what are the values this person has? Get your non-negotiables, your 3 non-negotiables, have them be like your values. What are your morals, your principles? Those 3 have to align, and not so much hobbies, not so much how much he's making, what car he's driving. what house you want in the future, where he'll be taking you for your honeymoon. You shouldn't be thinking about any of that. You should be thinking about what type of man is he? Does he prove himself to be kind? Is he loyal? Is he, intelligent? Is he able to provide not only for you, but for his family? If his family's in need and they're not doing well, is he providing for them? Is he trying to make himself better? And you'll see the same thing for women. A man wants somebody, a woman who is feminine, who gives into that feminine energy, who wants to be caring, who wants to help those around her, who is growing, and you both grow together. That should be your goal in relationships, is to see if your values and your fundamental morals and principles are the same. If not, if you're just looking to see how much he's making, or if you're looking to see how much her body count is, or if she's got the right curves, or she works out enough and she's got that booty, you're coming from the wrong place, and you're going to get the wrong, you're going to make the wrong impact, and you're going to get the wrong results.
Yeah.
I think it has to do with where are you placing yourself as a man. Are you going to bars to look for a wife? As a woman, are you going to bars to look for a husband? You have to see where you're going.
Yeah. I mean, everyone has standards, though. It's just, I guess, it's become more.
What is your? I have a question for you. What is your idea of a modern woman, and what do you think they could change as a man? What you've noticed between the women that you've been with, you've dated.
I just think they're becoming a lot of women are becoming really, really sensitive, hypersensitive. Over things that we're not trying to be disrespectful. We're not trying to downgrade you. We're not trying to overpower you. We're just being men, and there's a really unrealistic expectation of what men should be, making $150K a year, have this body, be charming, have this many friends, a house, car, all these things, and just then they'll give us a chance.
Would you say it would be a good trade if you were that way? Let's say you're making $150K, you're going to the gym every day, you're taking care of yourself, you're very smart, you're investing in your education, all this stuff, and she's doing the same. Would you say that's a good trade? That she's being able to better herself as you're bettering yourself?
Absolutely. No, I advocate for that. I women should be doing that.
It's that toxic queen mentality I'm perfect this way and I don't have to change for anybody. Is that what you're talking about?
So something like that, yeah. And they just come into every interaction, into every connection with that defensive, I wouldn't even say defensive, I would say offensive mindset, where I'm going at this guy, testing his abilities and capabilities in every single way until he breaks. I want to break him down until he's not a man anymore, and just then I might consider it, but then I'll go and fuck the famous rapper that just came in town.
I think you're hanging around the wrong type of women. The last time we spoke, the same thing was going on. I think you're just hanging around the wrong type of women.
I'm not trying to generalize. A lot of women I know are have the right values and think of it the right way, but it's just so. There's this overwhelming sense of fear for men to even
step on the wrong side of the road or something like that.
To
mess something up.
To maybe aggravate someone or say something that might throw a woman off. But that's the thing, though. That's what pisses me off is women are conditioning themselves and telling themselves that they don't want a guy to have that a little bit of dominant force to them because it's an attack on them and they're independent.
Define that dominant force. Put
dominant,
it into
not even
hypothetical situation.
Not physical, obviously, but just
define it. Put it into a hypothetical situation where there's a girl and a guy, they're dating, and out of nowhere he becomes dominant. What does that look like?
Okay, the girl says, "Hi, sweetheart, I want to go for sushi." No, we're going for burgers and fries. She wants to go for sushi. I want to go for burgers and fries. I want to go for burgers and fries. We've gone to sushi the past 3 times.
Okay.
And I want to go for burgers and fries. Oh, well, like that's a very like stupid example, simplistic example, but it's like,
yeah, because
oh girl, like don't let him tell you you can't eat sushi tonight. If you want to eat sushi, you go eat sushi. Even if
in that situation, no. I think in that situation, it'd be more like, okay, so you want burgers and fries and I want sushi. So how about we go pick up burgers and fries and we go pick up sushi and we come back home and eat? That's more of a compromising situation. But I don't think that's like submission and dominance.
But even compromise, but that's the thing, even compromise is in a blurred state where compromise is just submission now for guys as well. Like
I think that's where it goes to. It's ego, though. It's ego. Both men and women want to be in the right. Both men and women want to go just for burgers or just for shrimp, you know? So in that situation, I think it's just ego. It's putting your ego down and setting it aside, and both of you coming together and compromising on something. It's not just a guy compromising and him being submissive, even though when you're in a relationship, you both have to compromise. You want somebody that you want to be in a relationship with somebody that you can contend with. If you're just in a relationship with somebody where you're like, no, I want burgers, you hear me, we're going to go get burgers today.
100% agree.
You want to contend with somebody. You want somebody who is going to think differently than you and who's going to say, hey, no, that's not right. That's not good thinking. Because then again, if you see, I don't know, if you get single men in power, like that type of dominant power, you get dictators. Like, look what happens without the caring nature of a woman that influences a man. We have people like Hitler who take things too far because they didn't get their burgers and their fries. You know, they didn't get the good woman there to bring them back from those evil actions and bring them back to their senses. But sometimes
as a man, like in that specific example, if I'm tired and I don't want to make the extra effort to drive to sushi and pick up the sushi and I really want burgers and fries, I want burgers and fries. We're not getting sushi. Like, why is that? But because why is that such a like strict and like dictatorship with men? Like that's just me putting my foot down. Like, no, I don't want to do that. And that is becoming that's what I mean. That is becoming non-existent with men and, you know, just the dynamic between men and women and relationships. And, you know,
Alex, what do you think about it? I want to hear what Alex thinks
about it. Men don't put a foot down anymore. They don't have integrity, have the balls to say no.
Yeah. I don't agree with a lot of that, but
what don't you agree with? What don't you agree with?
Well, I don't, first of all, I mean, any guy that feels that it's being submissive to compromise, that's just a warped way of looking at it.
I agree with that.
Because I think any healthy relationship that's going to last, you know, without the two of you absolutely driving each other insane, requires compromise constantly.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Some days you're not going to get your way with it. To use your simplified example, some weeks you're not going to get what you want with food, and you're going to have to give the opportunity to the other person to, you know, so it's push and pull both ways.
And I'm not an idiot. I know I'm not being unreasonable saying, oh, we should go for burgers and fries every single time because I'm a man. I'm telling that. No, absolutely. We're going to go get sushi at some point, but today I really want burgers and fries, and I'm not hearing it.
You know what? I think that's an interesting thing. I think there's miscommunication. A lot of times when people compromise, there's a lot of miscommunication. There's that internal thought process that you're having, that backwards thinking, and you're just talking to yourself and you're saying, but I want this. I let her go to shrimp all this time and she doesn't want to go get burgers and fries and blah, blah, blah. But you didn't communicate that. You have to communicate it. There's a certain way of saying things. You know, you can go around and say, no, you know what? We're going to go and get burgers and fries because I want burgers and fries. Or you can say, sweetheart, we did this, we did that. I'd like some burgers and fries. Maybe we can pick up your shrimp on the way back. What do you think about that? It's like what Alex was saying. It's a tug of war sort of situation, but you pull and push, you give and take. It's a little bit like that. And yeah, I think there's miscommunication in that. I've been watching a lot of soap operas lately just to catch up on some soap operas just for fun, because the drama is fun. But most of the soap operas are built on the lack of communication, the miscommunication of situations. So all of this could be prevented if this one person told this one person this, you know? And I think the same situation can be said about dominance and submission. I think there's a really bad connotation around both of them. When women hear submissive, they hear, oh, that means I have to be on my knees and completely adoring this man, doing whatever he wants me to do. You know, that's not what it is. There are certain situations in life where your husband, the man that you're married to, will have more of a sense of what's going on because he's a man and because he brings these certain attributes and qualities to this relationship that you as a woman might not sense. But then again, women have this intuitive nature that they'll be like, honey, okay, this person seems kind of weird. We shouldn't go to that party, you know, and then there ends up being a shooting at the party because of that person. You know, there's certain situations like that. So I think it all can be distilled to communication. Maybe in that situation specifically, your simplistic analogy can be said to that, to miscommunication.
When are some certain situations where women should be submissive and shouldn't be? Can you think of instances?
You might have to give me a second for that, but I don't know.
You know what I mean? I don't even know when.
Do we even know what submissiveness looks like nowadays, or what submissiveness looks like? Because what I think it looks like from soap operas that I'm watching, I'm thinking the submissiveness of women in those soap operas is more like referring back to the man when they're in a social setting. When they're in a social setting, there's a certain hierarchy level where guys will say something and then the wives will turn to their husband and be like, oh, this and that. I can't really come up with a specific situation where the woman has to be submissive.
I don't think we need to use those terms though. Why are we even using these terms? I don't understand.
What term?
Yeah, I think they have bad connotations around them. I think there's bad connotations around them. I think the whole meaning of them have been warped. They don't mean what they used to mean, and so it's kind of, I don't know if we should make up a new word for it or how we should explain it, but the definition for submitting and dominating should be completely different. I don't think in a relationship a woman is dominating the man or the man is dominating the woman. It's always a level of compromising. If you look at it this way, you both are idiots. If you had a fight and you are saying one thing and she's saying the other thing, the only thing that will bring you both together is that you both were idiots in the way that you handled that situation because you got in the fight in the first place. And so you come to a level of equality in the sense that you both are dumb and you shouldn't be fighting because you're on the same team. And why are you fighting against each other? You know, you're on the same team.
I think that's also a different context when you're in a relationship. Like in the initial stage when you're trying to gain attraction, there is a level of, the word isn't dominance, a little bit of leadership needed from the guy to gain the attraction. Assertiveness.
Confidence. Okay, so that's different though. That's not like asserting dominance or your status or a woman or a man submitting to each other, because biblically, again, you know, women submit to their men and then men submit to their women. It's a compromise situation. Both of them are going to do that. You're in a relationship to work things out by compromising, by talking things through. You become one in that relationship. We're talking specifically about marriage. Now you're talking in the sense of just starting off a relationship. In the start off of a relationship, there are things that are more that women look for in a guy. Like, I can give you an example from when I was younger, and still nowadays, my boyfriends would come and ask my dad to be my boyfriend. That's that traditional sense to it. They would ask my dad, and I would require that. I would say, no, I'm not going to be your girlfriend until you talk to my dad. Now, there has to be a certain level of that. I think if you're just going at it from a perspective of, hey, you know, you do you, I do me, we'll just see what happens, you get into that gray area. And it's that hedonism that we're talking about, where you do what you want when you want, and she does what she wants when she wants, and it just gets all mixed up. That's the whole craziness about hookup culture nowadays. Nobody knows what they're supposed to do. And like in your situation at the beginning where you were snapping the girl and you didn't know, should I say this? Should I say that? There's no guidebook to it anymore. And I think before, in traditional relationships, there kind of was more of a guideline of what was appropriate to do. Like, the guy was supposed to talk to the girl's dad if he wanted to get married. There were certain things that were seen as were perceived as correct and that you should do, just because that makes you an honorable man and an honorable woman, rather than, hiding things or miscommunicating things or leaving things out or not saying things. I think there's a level to that. I don't like hookup culture nowadays. I don't like dating in modern society, because you don't know who's thinking what should you be doing? What does that text mean? Is she flirting with me? Is she not? Is he saying something that, there's this whole gray area, because nobody wants to label anything. Nobody wants to be assertive or communicate, basically. I think it boils out to communication.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely a complicated and confusing time. And personally, I've taken myself out of the equation of, men getting pissed off, women, just treating men like shit, thinking, expecting all these unrealistic things from them, saying men ain't shit, we don't need a man, we're
Have you had a girl actually say that to you, though? Have you had a girl where you've talked to her,
no, but
in your personal situations? I'm not saying social media wise, or you watching other people or women reacting to that, because I like the Fresh and Fit podcast to an extent, but then again, I think it's really demoralizing for people to watch those things. It goes back to what Alex was saying. What are you consuming? What are you putting in your mind?
Yeah.
And I think if you're consuming a lot of that stuff, it can really demoralize you. It can make you feel like, oh, there aren't any good women out there. So why should I even try? I might as well just take myself out of that equation.
That's the brand of their podcast. They bring these women on that have these absurd expectations, right. And it's when men are watching that, we just think, oh, that's the only type of woman out there. And it's
but
not.
Maybe that's the problem.
That's the issue,
maybe that's the problem.
Social
that's the issue is that you're thinking that everybody's like that, because these are the only type of women that are getting exposure. Right. When Fresh and Fit really should be having people that are more normal, per se, because I'm sure they're just picking off girls that have high social media followers, high count, whatever, and they're bringing them on and talking to them specifically about these things. But that's an issue too, because they're oddities. Maybe not all women think like that. Maybe common sense is still common.
They don't. I absolutely know that all women don't think like that. And
because in the common day-to-day woman that I speak to on a day-to-day basis, and I'm sure that you speak to, because you said the women that you talk to in your close perimeter, they don't think like that. They have good values. And then again, that's why I asked you, what type of women are you surrounding yourself with? Absolutely. And I think a lot of men do surround themselves with women that are of that type, of that nature, of that mentality, that they are, that boss B girl who can do whatever she wants whenever she wants, and she can get whatever guy she wants because she don't need no man and she's this queen. But again, like Alex said, it's a smaller percentage of women, but they're getting this huge exposure because it's just so loud, and it kind of acts as an echo chamber where you're just hearing all of these people say these crazy things, and you're like, well, is my common sense, is what I think, not true anymore? And you start doubting yourself. And I think that might be really damaging as well. A lot of men listen to those podcasts, watch those videos, and they're like, I can't believe that's why I don't want to date women. But are you actually taking a step out of your phone and out of your computer, going outside, maybe touching some grass, and then going to meet real girls, real women? I think that's what it boils down to as well, is that you're not meeting real women. You're watching all these people online. And then again, you're becoming consumed into your phone, segregating yourself from society. So isolating yourself from society and thinking, okay, so I'm never going to find true love. I'm never going to find the woman that I want, because all the women are the same. Look at my phone. I'm watching all these women say these things. So this is what most women must be thinking. So then you've already kind of cut yourself out of the running. You've done it to yourself.
I agree. Most of the shit I do see, it's some really messed up stories. Like my buddy sent me DMs of videos of, girls on these women on podcasts talking about their
it's stupid
nasty,
stuff. Oh my
nasty
gosh, yeah.
things where like they're talking about how they're with their boyfriend and their boyfriend falls asleep, they're horny, they go and like have sex with their ex, and they come back home, don't even shower or anything, and then the boyfriend wakes up, and then Like these kind of vile, like just evil shit.
And I completely
like,
understand the vitriol that some men have because of that type of woman.
Right. So that's...
But then again, you have to realize that not everybody is like that. I remember there's a story from one of my friends who went off to college. She started hanging out with this kind of group of college girls, and these college girls are completely insane. She told me about this one girl who was in the group chat with them. There were maybe 10 girls in the group chat, and this one girl, let's just call her Lila, just because. Okay, so Lila was going around sending the girls in the group chat her nudes and then pictures of her having intercourse with guys while they were doing like snorting coke off her butt and stuff like that. And I think that's completely messed up. I absolutely am not saying that those women do not exist. I think they do exist. And I think it's horrible that women would degrade themselves that way in that situation and sending that to their girlfriends and doing all this stuff for what? For validation. So then again, there are women who don't do that. There are women who like me are completely taken aback by a woman doing that, by somebody even having that thought, contemplating something like that and doing such vile things like what you said with the girl sleeping with somebody and then going back home and sleeping with a boyfriend or whatever. I think that's completely vile. It's because everybody has given in to the plain hedonism. And again, we're just generalizing, but it's plain hedonism of these women and men who go around thinking they can do whatever they want when they want to do it, and then expect to have this beautiful relationship with somebody when they themselves aren't changing. So this is what I tell a lot of the people that I work with. I say, hey, if you want somebody, you want a certain type of person, write down the list of the qualities that you want, the attributes that you want in this person. Don't say like 6 foot tall. I want him to make 150. Don't say that stuff. I want qualities. I want attributes. I want values. I want principles. Write those down. And then you become that. You embody those things. And when you start embodying those things, you start putting in that work into yourself. You start putting that work into everything you do. Everyone around you will start noticing that. Your family, you'll start being kinder to your family. You'll be smarter to your friend group. They'll be like, oh wow, she's reading a lot, or he's reading a lot. He's doing a lot of studying. That's really cool. And you start doing all these things for you, and you're impacting those around you, and you're impacting them in a positive light. You're not just bringing up all the bad things that people do and all this stuff, but you're impacting others in a positive light, and then people will be attracted to you. Hopefully the same people that you are trying to attract will come to you in that sense, because again, you'll be putting yourself in different situations. You won't be going to bars. You'll be acting like a wife or a husband, and then somebody will make you a wife or a husband. You know, that's just what's going to happen. But you have to embody those things first. You can't just expect that to happen like that. Hey, I want to wake up this morning. I want to have a 6-pack right now. You know, you can't get a 6-pack if you're not going to the gym working out.
I'm curious, that story you shared about your friend being in that group chat and that one girl sending all those nudes and, you know, the coke and all that. Did any girl in that group chat say, what the fuck are you doing? Like, did they support it? Did they encourage it? We're like, oh yeah, like, girl, that's sick.
Like that. No, they were like, why are you sending us that? Because most of those girls were like totally put off by it. However, she possibly had another group chat where there were girls saying, oh yeah, you go girl, you know, be that bad bee, go ahead and do that.
That's just messed up.
But that's my point.
It's totally messed up.
That's my point. There is a side of society now where they, as gross and greasy as it is, it's not encouraged. I wouldn't say it's supported. Like, yeah, you did that. You did what you wanted to do. Like flaunt it. Like, but show off.
Okay, so for me, I think that's Satan. See, that for me, I think that's Satan. What that shows to me is that if you give exposure to those people, if you bring them on your podcast, if you you kind of promote all that mentality and you kind of promote all that stuff, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get these satanic people doing these satanic things, because it's the devil working through them. And and that's why I mentioned Insidious earlier. All these things like the little dances, the ASMR stuff, it's all these little things that are keeping your attention, detracting it from all the bad things that are happening that you should be aware of, but you should not become jaded by it. What I notice in a lot of young men is that, oh my gosh, yeah, all women are like that. It's horrible. I don't want to date with anybody ever again. And they say, say, oh, women this, women that, blah, blah, blah. And women do the same thing, of course. They say, oh, men ain't crap. I don't need no man, blah, blah, blah. And what that's doing is making you jaded and cutting yourself off from possibly meeting the man or the woman that you are meant to be with, the woman or man that you are meant to have a beautiful life with, that you could have a beautiful life with because you build it with them. And I think a lot of the problems stem from you focusing on all the bad stuff. It's like, are you a half full kind of guy, a half empty kind of guy? I think if we start focusing on all the bad things and we become jaded by them, that's where all hope is lost. That's where all hope goes out the window and you say, okay, screw it. I don't want to see any of this, all that. I don't care. And that's where everything goes out the window. I don't think that's the perception we should have. I personally don't have that take on things. I've heard quite a few awful stories, and I'm grateful that I haven't had to live through any of that. And I say, okay, am I going to be jaded? Am I going to say, screw all men, they don't deserve me? Or am I going to say, hey, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to this person. I'm going to invest some time in this person. I'm going to see if they're the person that I want to date, that I could possibly end up getting married to. I want to see that. A lot of people don't allow themselves to do that, and they become jaded by the situations they hear about, they see, all that stuff.
Now I'm thinking it's a simple equation. Men look at all these posts on Instagram and these podcasts of these women saying these absurd things. We get resentful of it. We start becoming incels. We start hating everything, being pissed off at everything, shitting on women, being toxic towards women. And then there's women that see these women on podcasts talking about all these gross and nasty things and being praised for it, and so they think it's okay for them to do it. So we're both men and women are looking at these posts and this social media and these TikToks and thinking, men are thinking, oh fuck women, fuck this, they're the worst. And then women are thinking, oh yeah, like it's okay, it's cool to do all this slimy shit and all this gross thing.
It's just a vicious cycle.
Right.
It's making things worse. And it's just like a rounded backward thinking. You're just doing it and you're making yourself worse. You're not making yourself better. And then again, that's what my podcast is all about, is about making yourself the best version that you can be of yourself. And that way you can bring the qualities into a relationship that you want. And then they will also emulate that. Hopefully they will be working on themselves. A big part of it is that people try to have relationships with other people that are broken, and everybody has this baggage, this untreated baggage that they're dealing with. And then they expect to have a beautiful relationship without ever mentioning any of the bad stuff that have happened or trying to solve it on their own time. You have to be whole before you come into a relationship. You can't just be like this broken little miserable person where you're suffering and you're expecting somebody is going to fix you. It's a process.
You have to do the work. You also have to respect yourself too. And if you respect yourself, people will see that, and in turn, they will respect you as well.
Amen. You said it.
And by the way, Giulianna, where can people find your podcast?
So you guys can find my podcast pretty much anywhere where you have access to podcasts. It's called Dear Lovers by my name, Giulianna Ome. So Dear Lovers, hosted by Giulianna Ome. And you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, like I said, pretty much anywhere.
Fantastic.
Guys, thank you so much for having me back on. This was a really interesting conversation. Seriously, I think we should focus more on the good aspects of life rather than keep bringing each other down about all the awful things. I think there's a lot of negativity out there, all the content, the value that's added into our own minds. I think it is really interesting to talk about it, but at the same time, there has to be like a movement or an effort that we're putting into changing that. And I think the only way you can do that is by bettering yourself and just canceling out the noise. Just ignore all the noise, focus on you, focus on the good version of you, on who you want to be, and like who you want your wife or your husband to see you as.
Right. And I just want to make it public. I just want to make it publicly clear that to women, men, we're trying to love. We're inherently trying, we're teddy bears inside, man. We really are. And we want to love.
We guys are also very simplistic, right? They have a more simplistic, less complex way of looking at relationships. They're not like, oh, I need this, I need that, I need this in a woman. It's pretty much, I want her to be caring, compassionate towards me. I want respect. I want love. That's not much to ask for. These are actual qualities rather than, he has to have 150K a year. He has to make 150K a year or whatever. It's less materialistic. And guys are definitely less complex, than women are in the relationship aspect.
And all those things you just listed, compassion, love, respect, all that, it's reciprocal. It's both sides. I just want
we all need to do more of that.
I just want this tug of war to end. I just want it to end because it's just feeding off each other.
Stop hating on each other. Stop hating on women. Stop hating on men. We both have uplifting qualities to bring to the table. And yeah, sure, men are for sure. Their factory setting is more simple in relationships. You want something simplistic. You don't want all the drama. You don't want all this. But also women, you got to have more realistic standards. I don't want to burst your bubble and say, hey, you can't have that beautiful mansion with the 10 bedrooms that you want. But hey, you just have to work for it. Be the best version of yourself. Work on you. And men, you work on you too. And then once you've done that, once you've emulated the partner that you want, hopefully you are putting 100% of who you are into that relationship. And they will be putting 100% of who they are into the relationship. Otherwise, the relationship won't work.
But also with that, one more thing what you just said, like the mansion with the 10 cars or the 10 rooms or whatever you said, statistically, isn't it like 1.5% of...
Less. It's 0.1. It's 0.1%. And most of the men that have that type of money that can offer you that type of mansion are over 65 years old. So if you are trying to find that, you should be willing to marry a Hugh Hefner, really. And most women are not willing to do that unless your ambition really takes over and you really, really want to have that mansion in exchange for a man who is 65.
Yeah. So all we're saying is, you can have that dream, you can have that ambition, but just take a step back and look at the stats. It's just numbers at the end of the day. Just percentages. Let's play the percentages here.
Follow the money.
Follow the fucking the.
No, but seriously, I think
follow the graph. No. The fucking what's it called? The
But even
pre-calculus 11. That's what it comes down to. Pre-calculus 11.
But even statistics can be muffled. There's the divorce statistic. I think we should do a new statistic where the divorcees are not included in the divorce statistic because the people who have been divorced are added into that statistic. So let's say Mo, you got divorced 4 times. You are stacked into that statistic, which means that this other person who maybe hasn't ever been divorced and has been married their whole life is not added into the statistics. So you're only seeing the repetitive nature of the same people who are getting all these divorces because they themselves are at fault, So that's an interesting fact too, that statistics, you can't really fully trust statistics.
It's probably
because there's always like a little loophole.
It's probably a me issue if I've gotten divorced 4 times.
Yeah,
but I'll never say that. I'll never say that.
Maybe it's a you issue. I didn't think about it. But yeah, definitely. Let's look inward instead of looking outward for what we should be doing.
And really be honest with yourself. What do you really want? What is it that you value? Don't go based on what you saw on social media and what the guest said on the podcast. Ooh, I should be like that. Ooh, that's really cool. Ooh, what is it that you feel? What is it you...
I think, if you really truly feel, sorry to interject, but if you really truly feel that you need to have that hoe phase, I say, you know what, you go and do that and then tell me which one feels better. Tell me which one feels better. If going and having that hoe phase really fulfilled that vacancy that you have, that inner hole that you have in your heart, and tell me if that helped it. Tell me if that made it feel better. And then live it the other way. What's the polar opposite of doing that? Being in a relationship with one person. Which one is more fulfilling to you? I think you should do it both ways. Test it out if you need to. But I'm of the opinion that you don't have to touch a hot stove to know that it's hot. That's just my personal opinion.
That's great. Thank you.
We'll end it on that. That was awesome. Thank you for coming on, Giulianna Ome on the podcast, episode 40. episode 40. If you liked anything from this episode, like, subscribe, comment, share with your friends. Thank you for all the support and love, man. The subscribers have been going up. You know, that makes me happy, makes me more happy, happier than anything in the world. You know, getting subscribers, waking up to a few more. Keep those coming. Share with your friends, and follow, like, subscribe to Giulianna Ome's page, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and it was called... Plug it again.
Dear Lovers. Dear Lovers. Dear Lovers. And you can follow me on Instagram as well. I have a pretty hefty link tree for you guys, so if you want to check it out, you can.
Well, there you go. Okay. Yeah, we'll do this again. This is the second time you're on the show. It's always a great time. We gotta have more talks. We gotta have more talks about these type of things.
We do.
Get out of this cycle of just hate and toxicity and crap.
Now that I have my setup a little bit better, we can do that too. All right, guys.
All right, thanks. We'll let you go.
Thanks, Juliana.
Okay. You guys take care.
All right.
God bless.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.